Then scroll down a little bit. You're going to do the frequency distribution for the quantitative variables, document the number of classes, the class intervals, set the individual class limits, tally the data into classes. So this is a lot easier with pivot tables. Once again, we're going to make a pivot table. So let's just take this pivot table. We're going to copy it, and we're going to paste it right there, and we'll paste it again right here. And so we're going to have 2 to work with. Oh, there's 3. There's 3 to work with. So let's get a third one. Okay. And so what we're doing is first deciding on the number of classes. Well, the nice thing is it's going to be the same number of classes for every single one. And why is that? Let's go back to the clean data. There are a total of how many responses? 221. Okay, remember, we can see that from the pivot table. There's 221 responses, so what we need to do is do equals 2 raised to the what is greater than 221. And so 2 raised to the, I don't know, say 8th, what is that? 256. Okay. 2 raised to the 7th equals 2 raised to the 7th is 128. So we need to have 8 classes. So determine the number of classes. So right here, let's put equals 2 raised to the 8th. And for all the quantitative ones, we need to have a total of 8 classes. Or, you know, that's the ideal number. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do, let's take a look here. Oh, cancel. So we've got the pivot table stuff. Let's click on this. Analyze. I feel like, let's see here. There we go. Field list. It disappeared, so I had to put the field list. So let's get rid of this, and let's put the first quantitative variable in. So year at Chick-fil-A. Let's put this in there. What year did you first eat Chick-fil-A? And notice it automatically puts it as some. Okay. So there's a lot of people in all these different categories, but we need to change this. So what we're going to do is we are going to change this to count, and we are going to double click on here and put frequency. Okay, so now we've got 2000, so on and so forth. And so now what we need to do is find the range. Remember right here, the formula for that is equals 2019 minus 2000. Okay, and then equals that divided by the number of classes. Okay, and so the interval should be 2.375. 2.375. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right over here, and I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to go up to Analyze, and I'm going to click Group Selection. And it says starting at 2000, going to 2019. That's great. And we can either do 2, we can do 3, and I'm going to say let's do 2. Well, let's do 3 to begin with, and I'll show you why we don't want to do 3. Okay. If we do 3, how many classes does it bring it into? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, just 7 classes, which isn't bad. There's only 2 in the last class. Or if I were to do, let's see here, analyze group selection. If I were to do it by 2 instead, then we're able to have 9 classes, I believe. Let's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I guess 10 classes. Okay, so you really could go either way. I think it really would be fine doing either way. And then what you're going to do is get rid of the blank. So click on that blank and say, hey, I want you to hide the selected item. Okay, so it got rid of that selected item, and so now I have that right there. Okay, and once again, I am going to, let's do this. Give this a little bit more space. Insert. Insert. And I'll probably just go in there and give you guys a little bit more space as well before you guys even take a look at this. Hopefully you'll have more space to work with. Okay. Insert. Okay, and so do the same thing right here. We're going to look at the next one. We already know it's going to be 8 classes. So the next question is how much you expect to spend on a meal. So let's click on that. Once again, we got to change it from some. You can view field settings. and instead of sum, do count. And double click on this and click frequency. Okay. And you'll notice, wow, that's a lot. But all that we got to do, take the max minus the min, right? So come right over here, equals, what's the max? 2,000. Ugh. I feel like there's something wrong here. Yeah, there's definitely something wrong. Sorry. It had the wrong data in there. Oh, that's how much you spent on textbooks. So let's get rid of that. How much would you expect to spend on a meal? Okay, and then let's change this to count. Frequency. Okay, so now we've got 3 all the way up to 15. That's much better. So let's do equals 15 minus 3, and then do equals 12 divided by 8, and you'll see 1.5. And so I'm just going to group it by 2. I mean, we can group it by 1.5 if you want. Let's see. Well, let's group it by 1.5 first, and then we'll see if we like it. And if we don't like it, then we'll possibly do it by 2. So let's group it by 1.5. Okay, so 3 to 4.5, 4.5 to 6, 6 to 7.5, so on and so forth. So that gives us a good that gives us a good frequency table. Let's look at what it would look like if we were to group it by 2. Group selection instead of by 1.5. Let's do it by 2. And you know, it looks just a little bit cleaner. So I'm going to leave it grouped by 2, and we'll go from there. And I'm going to hide this, filter, hide selected item. And then last but not least, what's the last question? Tolerable travel time. Tolerable travel time, how long are you willing to travel? Okay, and we're going to put, once again, value field setting, we're going to put count. And the max is 60, the min is 5, so I'm going to do equals 60 minus 5. And if you put parentheses around that, then you can divide that by 8, divided by 8. So 6.875 is what's it called? Is the interval. So we're going to group this, and we're going to do, instead of 6.875, we can do it by 7. Or 10. Let's see. Let's see how this works. So analyze. We're going to group selection and start at 5 and go to 7. Group by 7. And so you got 5 to 11, 12 to 18, so on and so forth. Okay, so you could do that. You could also do group, analyze, group selection. Let's do it by 5. That actually might be a little bit better. Let's see here. 5 to 9, 10 to 14, 15 up to 19, or 15 to 19. Those are inclusive. And then changing this to frequency. And so you can do it by 5, or if you do that, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's not bad. It gives you 9 classes. So that'd be reasonable. Okay, and so let's once again filter and then hide selected item. So coming down here, it says create a histogram for each qualitative or quantitative variable. Okay, once again, we've already determined you cannot create a histogram from this. If you click on this and you try to, let's see, pivot chart, and you click pivot chart, you cannot actually go to histogram. It says you can't create this chart with the pivot table because it's a different type of data. Okay, and so what you actually have to do, let's see here, data, pivot chart, you can do a bar chart and click OK. And then when you click on this bar chart, click on these, and let's see here. Oh, there we go. Come on. It's not letting me. There we go. All right, so I had to kind of click around on it a little bit, click off of it. You want to decrease the gap width, and when you decrease the gap width, notice I clicked right here and I decreased the gap width. Now I'm going to put something right here, and it's going to say first year of Chick-fil-A. Okay, and then I'm going to come down here, do the same thing, analyze, pivot chart. Okay, I've got that nice chart. I'm going to click on this again and say decrease gap width. Click on this one, analyze, pivot chart. We've got the same thing. And then just come over here, make sure that you change the titles, and then say, well, click on that, click on the bars and say decrease gap width. And so you now have all of that information. Okay, moving down to the next section. So these are going a lot quicker now. Create a cumulative frequency polygon for the quantitative variables. Okay, and once again, I'm going to insert. And I'm going to go Control C. Actually, I'm literally going to just copy all of these. Okay, Control C, and I'm going to bring them down here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert another, whoops. If you double click on it, it will bring you to the data that it's for. So I'm going to click on that and say, oh, I want to go to Analyze, show me the field list, and scroll down and drag it into values again. And so it'll bring you the count, but instead of the count, you don't want the count. You want to change it. So you can just right click on it, show values as, and it says cumulative. What we want is percent of running total. Okay. And then we're going to click on this and say cumulative. Okay. Do the same thing here. Then instead of count, we're going to say cumulative. I just kind of clicked on it twice slowly, and I'm going to say show values as percent of running total. It asks me, hey, is it for the right one? I'm like, yes. And then we're going to do, once again, count, or sorry, cumulative. And then change this to show values as. I right clicked on it, percent of running total again. Okay, and so we've got all these percents of running total, and make sure that you have all these labeled. Sorry, I'm trying to go through this a little fast so that way you guys can move on with your lives. So I'm gonna just space these out a little bit so that way you can see that they're different. Now the downside about this is you can't really make as easy of a pivot table. Let's see what we can do here. Pivot chart. And make a, let's see here, line graph. Notice what it does is it's got the cumulative and then it's got the frequency. And so you can play around with this if you want to, but it really is a lot easier, in my opinion, to just pull it out of there, pull it out of the charts. Okay, so we're going to just highlight all of them, and we're going to do Control C. And I'm going to come over here, Control V, and then I'm going to say there's going to be something that pops up on the bottom, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to say, hey, I just want the values. Okay, and so when you have just the values, what you're able to do is you're able to say, hey, we've got cumulative, we've got row labels, you highlight them together, and you can say Insert, and then you can say, okay, I want a cumulative chart. Okay. And so it gives you a cumulative chart. And then you can do the same thing, highlight the row labels, highlight the cumulative, and say, once again, Insert. And it gives you a cumulative chart again for that one. And then same thing down here. And then Insert, cumulative chart. So now we have the cumulative charts for each one of these. Make sure that they're appropriately labeled. And last but not least, and so what this does is this shows you, hey, these are the groups that are below this, and you can actually do a histogram and whatnot stacked on top of each other. It's kind of complicated when you have the group information all coming together right away. Okay, so the last but not least, create appropriate frequency polygon in which you make multiple sets of data to be compared. Now the downside is we don't actually have any data in here that that would do that for us, right? The only way to do that, I'm going to show you guys how you could possibly do that. If you're like, hey, I don't have any data that can do that. The reason why I don't have any data that can do that is you need data where you've got two quantitative variables that are on the exact same scale. And here, we don't have two quantitative variables that are on the exact same scale. So I'm going to show you how you can do this by comparing two different sets or two different groups. Okay, like for instance, if I were to compare the group of the individuals whose favorite restaurant is Chick-fil-A against the individuals who aren't, that'd be one way. Or I could say, hey, I want the individuals whose favorite, or who's from inside the United States as compared to outside, or inside of Texas as compared to outside. Okay, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come back up here, and let's see here. Favorite fast food location. I'm going to copy this, Control-C, and I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to put right here in filters of the following, what is your favorite fast food restaurant? And then I'm going to say, what is the first year you ate Chick-fil-A? So I'm using a filter to say, hey, I only want the people whose favorite restaurant is Chick-fil-A, and I want the count of what year did they first eat Chick-fil-A. Okay, so now I have, let's do frequency. Okay, so I've got all of these right here, and I'm going to copy these, Control-C. There's 101, so this is really good. And then now I'm going to have all, or actually select multiple items, except for Chick-fil-A. So everyone else. So their favorite restaurant is Chick-fil-A. And then the next one is, the favorite is not Chick-fil-A. Fave, not Chick-fil-A. Okay, so now we've got individuals whose favorite restaurant is Chick-fil-A, and then also individuals whose favorite restaurant is not Chick-fil-A. Let's see here. One quick thing. Notice they're not lined up perfectly. I've got to move this down. The reason why is because it didn't have 2003 to 2004. Make sure that you've got everything matched up based on what you saw there. But 2003 to 2004, there was zero. Zero people from 2003 to 2004 whose favorite restaurant is Chick-fil-A. That's kind of odd because you've got 11, 0, 32. So let's take a look at this and see what happens. So we're going to do insert. And so now we can say first year to eat Chick-fil-A. And so this would be an example of a frequency polygon based on something that would make a lot of sense, saying when individuals ate Chick-fil-A. So hopefully this was beneficial to you. I know that this was a very long lecture. I hope that you guys skipped around in a little bit so that way you were able to see what was going on there. If you have any questions, feel free to post questions in the GroupMe or in the comments below. Also, for the submission process, literally, what we're going to do is we're going to be able to take a look at this. And I know that some of you guys are working together on this, but, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to be like, okay, what do we got? And it's one of those things where I'm going to check through and I'm going to see, did you do everything? So you should be able to zoom out. It should be very, succinct all the way across. I should be able to see a linear process of, okay, we've got these charts, these charts, these charts. I know that this one's taking a little while. Yeah, take your time, make sure that you do it right. And that's one of the reasons why I have it due, right before the exam, is because some of these take a little bit more time than others. Like the next one literally will take, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, where this one probably took you closer to 40. So thanks so much.